All right, so welcome to the Winning Mindset. This class is going to cover quite a few topics. I don't know if you've seen my post in the Facebook group, but a lot of the topics I'm covering have to do with the art of war. If you notice, there's always kind of a similarity in between what I want to teach, as long as it kind of goes hand in hand with the art of war as well. And I didn't cover all of the art of war, so how many of us here has actually read or seen the documentary?
I make about half an hour into it before I fall asleep.
Okay. So
it's really interesting.
About
I want to make it all the way through.
Okay. So that's one of the things I required him to research eventually someday, because it's really important. Everything that Sun Tzu teaches, it has to do with the battlefield, but not just the battlefield, everything outside. So like the courtly graces and, But first, for your winning mindset. Now, this is something I had to learn, and I actually learned it the last coronet I won for my lady. Back then, I was very concerned about winning and losing. What will people think if I lose? What will my lady think if I lose? That type. You get caught in a trap because putting too much pressure on yourself about winning and losing, especially when you're starting to train and find yourself, it's just far too much pressure. So, as an example, like crew. So this was the first time you won coronet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was different? Because before you were fighting a lot, you were training a lot. So what was different this time for you? It was a mental thing.
I was just there to have fun. I wasn't actually aiming to win. I just was there fighting.
And that's
I didn't even realize what was going on until semifinals. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the exact same mindset I had that same day too. I wasn't really going in to win, but for myself, I needed to be there. I wanted to test other fighters, and I also wanted to test myself. But more importantly, I wanted to go out there and I just wanted to have fun and recapture the feeling of having fun, as well as being able to test myself. So you hit the nail on the head right there. When you're not concerned about winning and losing, and you're just going out there to have fun, good things happen. They really do, because you're under no pressure. Winning or losing means nothing.
You're not worried about, will this shot actually kill him? I need to have the killing shot. I'm here to fight.
You're here to have fight, and you're here to have fun. So I encountered this. Now, it's very easy as a fighter to focus on winning if you do a lot of winning all the time. So it's very easy to kind of fall into that trap of it's easy to focus on winning because you win a lot, so it's easy. The thing was I ran across a situation that I had never been into in a tournament before. Generally, when I go in, I don't generally lose the very first fight of the tournament when I go into the finals. So what happened? Soren gooned me. And my picture, my focus point, everything was about winning for my lady. Like, my focus point was saluting my most honorable opponent as they're falling over, looking into my lady's eyes. And that was where I was trying to draw my strength from. The problem was it was all hinging on something that I don't have control over. That's the very big thing. So in that moment when I lost, I literally crumbled as a fighter in that moment. Like, if I had went back out there and saluted again, I was dog meat, 100%. I stood no chance against Soren in that moment. So my lady saw this. I was falling apart, literally like stick a fork in Gregor's done. I almost went over to the line and saluted and got ready to fight Soren, but I needed to find my happy place again. So I went over to the sidelines, knelt down with my lady, and she saw it in my eyes, and she's like, look, as much as I would love to be the princess of Awartha, what I really want you to do is just go out there and have fun. Just go out and have fun. That's what I want. And then from that moment on, that really stuck with me. And in an instant, my focus shifted from a situation that I had no control over to something when I enter a tournament I have absolute control over. Having fun, bringing honor to my lady. So that's now my new focus point. So that's kind of the beginning of how I learned not to be focused so much on winning and losing with a real life scenario where the situation mattered the most. I was able to switch my focus and my constructs to basically save my life. Basically, because I would have lost. So. That's why victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. In that moment, I was just going out there to win. I was focused on that so much, and when I had lost that train of thought, I was screwed. So. Now, when you guys go out there in a tournament, some of us have, some of us haven't. How do you bring yourself into that one moment? What's your focus? Like, how do you really step it up a notch, opposed to, say, practices or something? I know for you said something along the lines of when you put on your helmet, it has to do with putting on your armor. That's how you get into the frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything else is like everything else, but the moment I start putting on my armor, my whole mindset starts to shift, and the whole fighter's mindset starts to take over.
Okay.
And so now, once I get in my armor, all that matters is the outcome of the field at that time.
Okay.
Win or lose, that's all that matters.
Anybody else? I mean, like, it's really funny because when I was younger, they would be like, oh, go over there and focus and prepare and focus. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I didn't know.
I have been fighting for years in a hard suit. Mm-hmm. What I would do in tournaments, especially with the Pell match, was I declared myself, it's a victory just to be in my armor. And the fact that I'm in armor is the victory. It doesn't matter what happens after, I've already won.
Exactly.
The battle is to be in my armor. And then when I stepped on the field, after all the salutes, the focus that I did in a tournament, I'd always turn my back to my opponent and clear everything, but the only thing that existed in the world was the Eric. Then when I turned around and faced my opponent, my salute was my promise to give him the best fight I had in my body at that moment. It didn't matter where I was in the tournament, the first round or last round. I owed that man who was my friend in the field the best I had to give.
And I like that as a focus point because that's always something you have total control over 100% of the time. That's always where you want to come from. So I very much like that. Is anyone else?
Archery's the same way. You go up there and you start second guessing and start getting nervous and trying to hyper focus and get caught up and get in the wrong train of thought. You're gonna miss. You're gonna mess up. You just go up and relax and just focus on that, and just focus on what the basic maneuvers are going to be, what the basic release, and just relax about it and not be super intense and not really care these guys are going to laugh at me if I miss or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You just move forward with that. That's how you're going to think. And like you said, go out there, have fun, and enjoy it, and you'll do so much better than being nervous and
worrying
yourself
about
up.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's clearing my mind. When I stand, after I've talked to my wife and she smacks my helmet like she always does, that resets me. I stand up, I turn around, I let everything go. It doesn't matter who I'm fighting, what our history is, whether or not I feel that he's going to accept my shots. It all just goes away. It's just the here and now. Just let it go. When I look back on it, the way I see it is everything goes gray. The only thing in color is my opponent, and it really doesn't have a face. It's just the color spectrum, and I go out and I fight. And let your body do what it does.
Yep, exactly. That's something I'll cover here in a little bit too. But yeah. Okay, so training in order to find yourself. Let's see. We already kind of did the focus point and why it's important. We all discussed it. Training in order to find yourself. And it's, can you imagine what I would do if I could do all that I can? So, like, Squire's been coming over now for going on 3 months almost. Now, in regards to his training, this is kind of like how I train as a knight, and we'll get a little bit further in depth later when I go over kind of what a teacher and a trainer does, because it's kind of 2 different things. But as a Squire and his training, I asked him to make a choice. Pick something that you want to become truly good at. All right, don't spread your attention over 7 or 8 different things. Just for now, focus on one thing, and it's your choice, whatever you want. So when he did make his decision, he went with center boss rectangle. So the only other thing that I require him to do, because it is the fundamentals to his defense, is learning the 4-part drill to block his head with this sword and attack. So that's the only thing as a knight that I require him, because he's trying to learn a new style. Everything else comes from him. Now I will give him suggestions like, next practice I'd like to see like 3 different leg plans, or next practice I'd like to see 3 different kill combos, that kind of stuff. But I don't force him, because it all comes from him. He's trying to find out who he is. I'm not trying to make him a clone of me, or a clone of somebody else, or to walk the path for him. That's all him. So that's kind of how I train, but I try to give him the tools to teach him how to teach himself, and to train and offer advice to others as well. So training is extremely important, and I'll go over some of the things I do in part 2 of the class outside, but it's pretty awesome. Now, visualization. When you're training, how many of you imagine past instances of your fights that you can kind of say replicate maybe a training or a drill or something that you can come up with to practice why you die, or practice what works for you a lot, so you can sharpen that tool further and further. Okay, because a lot of it when you're training, if you're by yourself and you're standing in front of a pail, you got to imagine a lot, because the pail doesn't move. And you have to use the angles, how to approach it, and certain attacks, which we'll go over outside. But visualization is huge. The mind works very well with pictures, and if you are able to pull from a past experience that you already know, the picture is very easy to form in your mind to visualize. Because I do a lot of visualizing in my training. I don't just practice the sword blows and the steps. I will also visualize an instance. I practice for situations where I know a shot's coming in, so I practice for the block as well in between.
So watching the dancing?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be pretty soon.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, you're fine. There's a lot to cover, so I don't want to drag it out, because I have so much I want to cover that it could take longer than an hour. All right, so the visualization is important, and the way I use it is I use it a lot to recognize situations that I know. So if I die a lot of a certain situation, I'll be able to come up with a drill, and I'll show you how to do that later down the line outside. But why is dedication so important to your success? And this is what I was going to say with crew. If the mind is willing, the flesh can go on and on without many things. So
that's a two-sided blade. Because if the mind is willing, the body will obey, but the body will take revenge the next day.
Yes. The body will take revenge.
If you don't keep your practice in practice.
Yeah. All right, and then even the finest sword plunged into salt water will eventually rust. So for me, the dedication, I've been training daily now for 74 days straight. So every single day I train. Sometimes I train more than once, especially when it's Pale Nights or a squire will come over. I'll train with him to give him his time, and then I train more that day. So I train a lot. Now, the things I work on during my dedication is I have multiple things I work on. For my legs, I have 3 to 4 different shot combos, which I'll show you outside later. I have 3 to 4 kill combinations that I practice a lot, thousands upon thousands of times. And I also dedicate another time, because you generally want to train at least 3 different concepts, but no more.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So you want to pick 3 different things that you want to train, concepts. So I have my leg attacks, my kill attacks, and then my 3rd thing that I focus on is generally something that I am very weak on, something that I want to become better at. Like right now it is covering distance. Covering distance too far, taking a full step when I should take a half step. And when that happens, you can step past your shield just the way your body mechanics goes. So I've died to that multiple times. So that's something I'm actually working on, and it takes dedication.
It's something I caught you on.
Yeah, and this is the thing now. If you truly like something, you will find the time to do it pretty much on the daily. You know, if you like what you're doing, you will. If you're kind of not convinced it's something that you really want to do, you will find excuses of why you can't be as dedicated as you truly could be. So it's kind of a mindset thing.
Yes.
All right, so how many of you have ever trained and actually used mirrors or video? Let's go. Soon though. Okay, so a lot of your training and finding out who you're going to be as a fighter comes from you, and pretty much the majority of the time you alone. So you want to heighten the opportunities to find mistakes, figure out things that you're strong in, and the mirror is exceptionally powerful because you get a glimpse of what your opponent sees. Of course, it's the reverse, but you can see when your shield is out of position. You can see when you're stepping towards your mirror if you're bobbling your shield. You can see when you're practicing your blows. You can actually see your technique better. Like, people's opinions are important, but for you, when you're trying to teach yourself, learn how to use mirrors and video, because I use that a lot. And when I watch myself training, I'm serious when I tell you that I'm brutally efficient on judging myself. Like when I'm screwing up, I'm very brutal, and then I focus that attention on that topic to get it fixed. So if you see something that you're doing wrong, be brutally honest with yourself and do something that you can come up with to fix it, because it's really important. To you being able to progress anyway. Oops, did not mean to do that, sorry. I should have had the paper out too, probably would have been better. For some reason it's not letting me see more.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Unless I don't want to be interrupting if you have
No,
more
no, you're good.
So it's been an interesting topic so far. Do you have a different mindset in your mind personally when you train versus when you're in a tournament? At all, or do you try to keep them as same as possible?
For me, let's see. So the very next topic we're going to go into is how do you approach a fighter practice? Like, the fighter practices in SCA right now, they're very geared towards winning and losing. Like, it is a bear pit tournament. So like, if you win, you stay in. If you lose, you go get back in line. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, I don't concern myself with winning or losing at practice, especially because I'm there to work on something that I'm practicing at home. So for the last month for me, which just ended, was leg week or leg month. And you can attest to Squire. I went there, my intention was to leg every person I fought, so that was the plan. And then I was going to use my kill combinations that I had been practicing. But for the most part, I was going to leg everyone.
Every setup, every shot was a setup.
Everything was a setup for a leg that day, and that was my focus. So when I go in, I'm not going out there just to fight and have fun. And to win or lose, I'm just going in there to work on things that I know I'm weak on or something that I want to be stronger in. Now, another, which is a little bit further down the list, but since this goes with your question, how do you evaluate yourself? That's the test, right? How do you step it up a notch when you really need to? Like, an evaluation or a test is going to be something like a coronet tournament for a non-belted fighter for sure. Crowns, people of every level, knights, everyone, of any level. To be able to go into that tournament and know, depending on how deep you get, you can kind of evaluate. Like Sir Soren, his personal best now was he won 6 rounds this last time, which is his personal best. Now that's pretty good if you think about it, because theoretically, if he won 3 more fights, he could be king. So 9 rounds is generally semis to finals. So he was literally 3 fights away from winning. So he has room for improvement, but if he keeps improving, say just he averages 7 next time, and then next time he's 8, that's quarterfinals. Next time he's 9, he's in the finals. So it's not that far to go. Now let me get to answering your question. Okay. So at practices, the way I'm doing this now for me, right now I'm in shield month, so I'm working very hard on my defense. All right, so every single person that I face out there, I'm not going to be throwing a shot. All right, I'm going to go out there and live as long as I can until I die. The one exception to that is my evaluation in my test, which will be Sir Cyrus. So when I face him, I'm going to give everything I can, plus the kitchen sink. When I fight him, I'm going to try to raise my level to the max. Now, let's say, last practice. Now, I hope this isn't.
Go ahead.
I'm not
You can
trying
go ahead
to
and pick on
embarrass
me if you
you.
need to.
Okay. So, Squire went out there last practice. He attended, and he was fighting very well against every single other opponent that he faced. Like, I watched his fights, and when I got done, immediately sent him a message, what the hell? And it was only because of one situation. It was when he faced Sir Cyrus, who had just gotten back from Crown.
Just gotten back from Crown,
and he had just took second place. And in that second place, he had won his first fight. So he was one shot away from being king in that moment. So whatever happened that day, Cyrus got into his head. So when he marched up to the line, he stood there and got pasted every time. He couldn't bring himself to treat his opponent like they can't do anything to you. And that's something that I kind of preach a little bit. Now, you can be aware of danger, but you have to treat your opponent like they can't do anything. So what we're working on now is the 30-second kill drill. So for 30 seconds to get his aggression up and to ramp him up so he can kind of fight above his level, he is going to try to kill me for 30 seconds. And I'm going to try to survive. And we're going to be working on something to that effect a lot. So as his knight, that'll be something I now require him to do. Defense and the 30-second kill drill. And that's just so you can help fight combat people getting in your head. Because during that day, he needed it that day. He was facing somebody who was a crown level fighter who at any moment can be king. And it went right. It went to his head in a bad way. And he couldn't fight. He just couldn't fight that day. Against Cyrus. Everyone else really well.
If you don't mind, sir.
Yes.
You asked us, do you practice at tourney level? We had a situation in my household, my barony, where all of us squires were training new fighters. We spent all of our fighter practice training new fighters, and this reduced our abilities in our skill set, and we recognized this. So what we did is we carved out for ourselves every fighter practice one set where it was just the squires, and we promised each other to fight at tourney speed, the best possible fight once each, and we did that every fighter round, and then the improvement started. But if you're going to train at tourney speed, you better have somebody else training with you at tourney speed. You know, everybody trains a little bit less than tourney speed because it is physically draining. It hurts to fight at tourney speed. But when we found ourselves starting to slip as a group, we put that in, and injuries go up, strains go up when you're fighting at that speed. But it was what we needed to get to that time of the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but if you're going to do it, make sure the person you're doing it with is also at tourney speed and willing to go there with you, because it's a portion of your mind,
Yeah.
and your body, and your spirit that requires a great deal of energy, and you will leave exhausted from fire practice.
Yeah, and that's why I say when you want a test or evaluation, look for a coronet, look for crowns. Those type of levels, you are guaranteed to face people that are very much thinking that way.
I'm actually really looking forward to crown and coronet to see where I sit as a fighter. Right.
Well, I'm at this point. I don't have any trouble finding people who can destroy me. So it's not my issue at the moment.
So if you want to fight at that level, like if you come to me and we're at a practice and you go, Sir Gregor, I would like an evaluation or a test, that tells me that I'm going to give you my best fight possible. So like when I approach now, at like next practice will be next week, it's all Shield week. Every single fighter I face besides Cyrus, I'm defending. I'm practicing my defense. When I get to Cyrus, and I'm telling this in advance, I want your best, so I want a test or an evaluation to see where I'm at, and I give him the very best fight I can every time I face him.
It's what I was doing when I was doing your Skolo event, was I was giving you guys my best fights. So A, to represent the SCA, because that's what I was there to do. And B, so you guys had the honor of fighting me in my best, and not just playing around. Or not just halfway doing it. Which is why my shots came off a little harder than I intended, especially for the padding we had.
Your shots were fine.
The head shots were a little brutal.
When it comes down to it is when you're first introducing somebody, you explain to them, look, I'm going to introduce you, we're going to do a little slow work, but when you get out to fighter practice, everybody's going to fight you like as if you've been fighting for a while because they want to respect you. And I'm going to give you not my A game, because A game is tournament, but not C or D game, which is introduction.
I'm going to give you great fights.
Yeah. Great fights.
You're going to walk away satisfied because you win, lose, or draw. You know.
And I've heard a couple different mindsets too. Like Kielsen was very much, I fight you at this level, this is the level you get, but that's for everybody. Like unless you're exceptionally new. Like he didn't just beat people into a state. But he fought the same level across the board, and that's what I really like. I get the same impression from Cyrus too. He fights the same level across the board no matter who you are. I mean, you get his game.
Because if you dial it back, all you're doing is yourself.
Yeah, you are hurting yourself. That's why
you're not helping train them because they're getting used to that lower level.
Yeah,
of fight.
and then all of a sudden, like Squire and I, when we fight, at the very end of the day, it is king of the world. Right, nothing else matters. Whoever wins this is what matters.
This is for all the enchiladas.
Yeah, I try to bring that intensity at the very end every day, and there will come a day when he wins. It will happen. It might be a while, but it's going to happen. It will happen.
But this is also after we've been fighting and we're already tired, and it's getting to that point where it's like, it's getting to that point of, I don't know if I can even hold my sword anymore, or I can't hold my shield. One more fight.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Always do that. Always one more and
one more fight, because that push past can help you become better the next time you start fighting it. You know, whether you come back to it half an hour later or you come back to it a week later, just that one extra fight can help you that much more, because you remember, well, this is how I felt the last time and I still had one more fight. Yeah. I feel this way now, but I feel like I have like 2 or 3 more fights now.
Yeah, what happens when you're in a tournament and you're like out of gas and you really needed to go one more a bunch of times?
And if you can train yourself to be that way, and you make it to the finals and they go, do you need a 10-minute rest? Look and go, no. Because why give your opponent 10 more minutes to rest? They've already had the fight before you.
Yeah. Don't let that rest.
All right.
Go back into it.
So the big thing I do recommend when you do go to fighter practices is to use that as an opportunity to fix the things that you're weak at, seriously, or things you're working on, like shot combos. Like I know for him, he really wants to hit everyone with the off body, and he's getting there. It's a footwork thing, which we'll cover in the second half. But what you want to do is you want to approach practices as a way to fix mistakes, a way to improve where you're weak, and a way to also reinforce where you're strong at as well. But don't just go out there trying to win the day, seriously. But at the same time, allocate time at the end of practice or something to really give your kitchen sink to somebody?
Like, one thing I did because it wasn't a practice, but it was a day for training. One of the things, he was still in leg plan mode. So one of the things I started doing was I started adjusting where I was holding my shield and started relying more on my sword for my head defense. And he was having a harder time legging me. Like in the beginning, he was bang, bang, bang. But then I started making the tweaks and the adjustments that I've been trying to work on to try and avoid getting legged as much, doing the footwork where I'm holding my shield. And eventually he got to the point where he was having to resort to shield manipulation and whatnot. And
I just stab his corner instead of his face to get the same effect, basically.
So,
and those are things we'll definitely cover in part 2 as well. Okay, so who knows the difference between a teacher and a trainer? Because they are 2 different things. There you go.
Go ahead.
Do you know?
Yeah, well,
You do not know.
I have a take on it.
Okay.
Well,
What's your theory on the
my take on it
difference?
is a teacher teaches you something new in your mind that you don't know.
Okay.
A trainer takes something you know you should be doing and makes you do it 1,000 times so that you actually get good at it.
I do like that analogy. All right, so the main difference between a teacher and a trainer lies in the type of knowledge they impart. So a teacher kind of imparts theoretical knowledge, not to them, but to their student. It's theoretical because they don't know, but the teacher does know. And then the trainer will impart practical knowledge. Okay, so you're leading with your head, you need to do this. We'll devise a drill to fix that, and then you'll do it 1,000 times until it's that type of mentality. So here's an example. A month and a half to 2 months ago, we were at fighter practice, and this was just when you picked up the rectangle.
Yep.
So he just started fighting with it. So Dart went out there and he had a few fights, but he was having his sword way back here, kind of like how I do, sit on the shoulder. It was your old guard.
yeah, I was like,
And everything, and
Better
so
than Iron Chicken.
yeah, so Sebastian pulls him aside, and he spends a lot of time teaching him. Okay, so you want to hold your shield here. You're going to be using your blocks like this. So you'll be blocking, you'll be attacking, doing all this, and then Dart's like, cool. So then he goes right out there, and I'm his next fight, and I was staying there for all this, and it's like, okay, so the teacher taught a lesson. This is what you need to do. He's passing on the theoretical knowledge to you. All right, so Dart goes up there, he squares right up, and he goes right back into his old sword grip. Now, I could have told him, or I could show him why he needs some practical knowledge here in just a second. So what I ended up doing is I ended up clubbing him in the head multiple times. And then right afterwards, I let him know, okay, so the teacher tried to teach you and impart knowledge to you. This is what you need to do. So I went out there as the trainer, showed you why you needed to do what he was doing. And then it was like, you just kind of understood. And it's really hard for him in that stage because he was switching over to something new.
transitioning from one style to another.
Yeah.
Transitioning between strap heater and center boss was the hardest thing I've ever done.
I came from the land of strapped heaters, Iron Chicken.
Yeah.
And even though I was Roman, I was fighting with a heater.
Yeah. I think
Kenrick went, do me a favor, fight with my shield for today.
Yeah.
The moment I picked up his shield, my entire stance changed from Iron Chicken to up here. I haven't gone back.
And I'm glad for the experience and what I've learned and what I am learning. I like it, and I like the shield style. I like the defense style, and I'm just really looking forward. Like I picked up for the first time. I picked up a back. Sorry,
You're echoing off the back wall.
I picked up a guard here and returned the shot. I didn't connect because that was footwork, which is another layer I'm still working on. But I caught the block and returned the shot.
Yeah. Well, technically you were probably going to die, but since you had that's one thing we do every time he comes over. He puts his helmet on. We immediately do the 4-part drill. We'll do half of it, and we'll do the other half, and then we do the full drill. And we're literally like hitting each other, trying to in the face.
I almost destroyed his basket is coupled.
Yeah. So he has this. The other thing, advice I gave him was before he was here, and now we're getting his elbow back. That's the big thing, is bringing the elbow back. So he started getting that down, however many practices into doing the 4-part. It was a lot. And he was striking with such force. Usually back in the day, dart was every single thing on the first shot. Like if you got hit with that, you would have to go to the hospital. But anything after that, there was nothing on it. But not anymore with his elbow back. He hit, it was like 40 blows maybe. And like rivets were popping out of my basket hilt. I was catching them like right on the edge of the basket where you're supposed to catch it, like just above, and they were falling out. So he's not having a power
In my defense,
problem.
the rivets are old.
Yeah, but the big thing is you're starting to listen about the technique, the pieces of advice, and it's starting to show now, which pleases your knight very much. You still have a ways to go, but you're getting there.
I can acknowledge that I have a ways to go. I've got a long way.
So I'm not sure how much time we have left. We're actually
I've
getting
got all the time in the world.
All right, so how to look for and fix your mistakes. Now, if you have the opportunity to go to practices with the camera, that's the best way. Because generally when you're out there fighting, sometimes when you're in the moment, you were so in the moment you just don't even realize how they got you or manipulated you, so they have to tell you. You know, and sometimes they don't tell you, so you're left full of questions. That's why I like a camera.
One of the things we did for Swear was the camera wasn't on,
Yeah.
but it wasn't just you looking at it. It was a person who fighting with and training with.
Yeah.
And it was called free criticism. Everybody sat around and we ran the videotapes of everybody who fought and all the other sports. This is how I was taking advantage of. This is what I was doing.
Yeah, that is gold right there. I wish we could all sit around a table now. We do something similar at the very end of each fighter practice most of the time. But that's awesome. You know, discuss where you were weak. You know, what you didn't like about your practice. You know, what did you do well? That type of thing. That's so awesome to do that. It's so important to do that actually. So, and that goes in how to look for and fix mistakes. Like, if you don't know how you're dying over and over, someone's killing you with the same thing over and over, just ask.
Like,
you know,
I have gone up to
look at the
Cyrus and
camera.
it's like, what are you doing with this backhand snap that kills me every time?
Yeah. You have to
how can
ask
I
those
fix it? Yeah.
questions because if you don't know, then it's going to be something very hard for you to teach yourself how to fix.
Yes.
So,
And for me, when I was doing the heater, what it was is I was keeping my heater too flat, and then I didn't have any kind of guard here. So he was able to just sneak it in, and it was all, if I had kept my edge here, you know, if I had manipulated my shield edge over here, and then used some house block or, you know, a tent block, he wouldn't have been able to throw the backhand that catches me in the grill every time. But all he'd say is, you've got this opening here, and I'm just snapping at it. Whereas
so that's like part of the information, but not fully to give you enough advice to fix the situation.
Exactly. Whereas he'll come and like, well, this is what he's doing to you, man. This is how you counter what he's doing to you. And so then I go out back on the field and try and fix that problem.
Yeah. And for him too, the other piece of advice I give him now, I don't force him to do it, but like go to practice with a plan. I'm serious. Just go, like you're trying to work on something, so work on something. You know, worry about winning and losing. You know, when you're in a tournament later down the line. Like right now, not so much.
If you see me, like especially if I'm fighting you and whatnot on the field, since you're going to start coming to fire practice, you're going to notice that I'm going to snap here, and then I'm going to come across you and try and throw to your off body and try and throw your shield aside. That is something I've been working on and training on, is I'm trying to shield rip into an off body after a flat snap. So whether I live or die, I'm committed to training my plan, but I've been practicing on Pell. And it's all the nuances of what do I do, how do I move to keep myself defended, how am I prepared to block in case something goes wrong. I'm going to die a million times throwing that one shot, but I'm going to learn in that million times how to throw the shot.
And in a few of those situations of those millions, it's all going to come together just right, and you're going to feel it. You know, All right, sorry about that. Let's see. So I covered a little bit of how to evaluate or test yourself. For you, I would say maybe pick a person that attends regularly that's of a very high caliber, you know, and just ask them, you know, I want like 2 or 3 of your best fights, you know, and then afterwards maybe tone it down and help me work on something that I would like to work on.
At this point, I'm pretty sure that I can't block a single shot of the best people's best fights. So,
but they could also give you advice on how that you could, because I will cover a lot of that outside in part 2. A lot of it has to do with footwork and defense and the principle of the X. So, and I will teach that. All right. So I don't know. Took off for the kid. Now, what is your definition of a true leader? You guys have any idea?
Leader?
Yeah, just a leader, not necessarily a boss or somebody you work for, but somebody who works alongside
The
you.
analogy is a boss is sitting on a chair with a desk on top of the block, and the workers are pulling the block.
Yeah, and I've
uphill.
seen that. Yeah.
And the leader is at the front pulling the rope and cheering everybody on and making sure that everybody's comfortable doing their job and doing their job, and they're helping, not just barking orders.
Yeah.
From window.
I like
favorite
that.
one for definition of a leader is I go to the story of Bronn, King of England, when he was a giant of a man. He was a giant, one of these legendary stories, and his army needed to cross a river, and so he stretched his own body across the river to become a bridge. And he says, "He who would lead must first be a bridge." And to be a leader, you don't tell him where to go. You show him how to get there. You show him where to go, and show him give him a way to get there. That's leadership. That's, you know, you were talking about Sun Tzu. One of the most important lessons of Sun Tzu is the story of Sun Tzu and the concubines.
Yeah.
And that was all about leadership.
Yeah, it is. You know,
So,
if let's see, that was the one where if you give orders and they don't follow them, then but your orders were clear, then it's the fault of your subordinates. But if you were not clear, then you reissue the orders again, you know, and let them know this time very clearly, and then according to history, they thought it was just a game, and it was about living or dying, and he taught everyone a lesson immediately. He killed both of the concubines, who were basically the patrol leaders of the troop that were going to teach the concubines how to fight. So yeah, very clearly they learned the lesson immediately that day. 2 of them didn't get to learn, but you know, it was a valuable lesson. I like that. So I definitely agree. A leader, it's not just about them, it's about everyone else around them and elevating everybody else around them. Because it's like, look at Cyrus now. Up here, he is the big fish. So how does the big fish get bigger if he doesn't help raise everyone around him to become better, to push him harder? So that's kind of like where my mentality is. Like, I want to get better so I can push him, so he can get better to push me and everyone else around us, so we can all, as a group, you know, get better. But yeah, definitely treating your peers as they were your beloved sons and daughters, and they will follow you into the deepest valley. Now, of course, I added daughters in there because Sun Tzu's, a lot of his words were basically about men to men. But you definitely need to believe in yourself, and all men can see tactics whereby I conquer, but none of them see the strategy that which victory is evolved. Now, I think that's probably about it for part 1. I don't know.
I think so too, dude.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have. We're probably just about right there at time. What does that say? 44 minutes. Right, so a lot of what I'm gonna cover, and I will be covering the art of war again out there on the outside, but this is the principle of the X is what I'm gonna be teaching with your sword and your footwork, and if you can marry them together, you're gonna be an extremely deadly fighter. Each step and each shot that you use opens up and creates openings for your actual kills or your third shots, things like that, and I'll cover that in the second video, but if you want, we can end it here.
Thank you
And
very
we'll
much.
pick
This was
up later.
fascinating.
Yeah. And there's still much more to cover, and if everyone doesn't have helmets and swords, it's still not a big deal. I will pull the Pell out, though, and get that ready and set up for the 4 o'clock class.